What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video, and these are coming thick and fast. It's game week preview time today for game week 32. Game week 31, very interesting weeks, a lot of high scores going around. Most of the questions that I got for this revolved around three clubs: Man City, Liverpool and Man United. So they're all going to be covered. There's some differential questions in there as well, as talking about our front line, so Calvert-Lewin, Danny Ings and the likes of those as well. So all of that will be covered, as well as captaincy. Just before I jump into it, I did want to say I've now set up YouTube channel membership. So if you want to support the channel via there, you get the cool little icon next to your name in the comment section and on live streams as well. And if you did want to support via Patreon instead, they've got a Slack channel set up, and there'll be a brand new league starting in July. So as long as you're signed up before the 1st of July on Patreon, you'll be able to get involved with that as well. So make sure you check out the links in the description below, and I will jump into this one. So as I mentioned in the intro, Manchester City coming up a lot, and I am very interested in their players too, for a couple of reasons. One, they're extremely good. Even though they did lose to Chelsea 2-1, they still at times looked incredible. And obviously Chelsea did defend well. Let's not take anything away from them. The likes of Christensen, Azpilicueta and Alonso, I think, did do well last night. But the fixtures they've got from game week 33 onwards just look incredible. Now, one of the problems is, of course, what happens now? The league is over. They've got FA Cup matches. They've got Champions League to worry about. I think the Champions League is a little bit less of a concern of mine because it's not until August. It's not like Pep's just going to pack his bags and just start benching these players every single week. I probably wouldn't bring them in against Liverpool unless I absolutely wanted a punt. From game week 33 onwards, I think they look really good. Now, depending on which options you go for, that is difficult. But I am looking to bring in at least one. And for me, it's probably between Mahrez and Jesus. Sterling I really like, and I think he'll get plenty of minutes over the rest of the season. But when I think about the players that we've got in our squads, the likes of De Bruyne already, maybe Salah or Mane, one or two Man United players, people are looking at kind of Chelsea assets now, maybe even Spurs players as well. It's extremely difficult to fit in Sterling alongside all of them, whereas Mahrez is like £3 million cheaper. He's got more points than Sterling this year, better points per match. He's played the first 3 out of 3 games. That's pretty incredible. And I think the beauty is of this now is the FA Cup games are going to be after the Liverpool game. So we're going to get to see who plays against who plays in the FA Cup and who plays against Liverpool before we make our game week 33 decisions. So we can see who's kind of been having their minutes managed, what kind of teams get put out, who's starting to see more regular minutes or more regular starts. And I think we'll be able to decide a lot more from game week 33. Not to say you can't bring them in against Liverpool, and I would have them in consideration. So, for example, when I'm looking at my transfer plans, I've already got half an eye on how do I get Mahrez, how do I get Jesus. So I really like Mahrez. It's really hard to look past him, to be honest, just because of his price. Much easier to fit in than the rest. Three out of 3 starts looks incredible. Foden, I'm still not sure about. It's hard to kind of say with him because he missed the Chelsea game through a knock. It wasn't just being rotated, it was through a knock. So for 5.1 million, he still offers incredible value. And to be honest, I'm going to struggle to get 3 Man City players in, the ones that I actually want. So I might be drawn to Foden at some point. If you're staying like a 3-4-3, could be a 5th midfielder. If you try and pick the right game, or if you've got a bench boost left, he could be a really good option. He's shown what he can do in the last 2 games. Although, like I said previously, he has scored kind of more than half his points in the last 2 games for this whole season. So whether he's going to keep getting starts, we'll have to wait and see, but he can play in those positions like Kevin De Bruyne plays, so he does provide cover there. And for 5.1 million, maybe we shouldn't be expecting points every week anyway. So Foden's not really top of my list, to be completely honest, because I'm trying to stick to players that I hope will get, you know, continued minutes, and like I'm not sure Foden's going to get more minutes than Mahrez, so I'd probably rather pay the premium for that as it stands right now. And also Mahrez has looked really good coming back from the break too. And then there's Gabriel Jesus. So he didn't start against Chelsea. That is only the 2nd time this season he's not started, when Aguero also hasn't started. And the other game, I can't remember who it was, but I looked it up on Transfer Market and he wasn't even in the squad. So that tells me he probably had a knock or something else. Like, it's very rare that he just wouldn't be in the squad at all. And the same kind of thing happened last night. He apparently had a knock brought on by the Burnley game, which meant that he couldn't start the Chelsea game. And obviously, he did come on and get about 25-30 minutes. So I'm fairly confident that he does get way more minutes than kind of not anyone else in that team, but he'll be up there with the top kind of players that are going to get minutes under Pep for the rest of the season. And let's not forget, yes, if they get through the FA Cup, they've got that to keep an eye on. But I don't think that's until like game week. It's between game week 37 and 38 is the semi-final. So there's still plenty of game weeks to go before them. There's still minutes to be managed by Pep, but there's also fitness to be gotten up. And they're going to need that. They're not going to just suddenly rest their players for 3 or 4 weeks, then play an FA Cup game, then rest them again, then play a Champions League game. It's just not going to happen like that. So I think Jesus is going to get plenty of minutes. 9.6 million is quite expensive, but he's already got 16 attack and returns in less than 1,500 minutes this year. 4 for shots in the box out of all players before this game week started, which is just absolutely incredible. That's for the whole season, by the way. So even though he's got very limited minutes, he still had the 4th most shots in the box. So even though he might not be quite as good as Aguero, he's a bit cheaper. And in that Man City team, he is going to get opportunities. Defensive-wise, I think there's so many defenders that I could put in my team right now. I'm just not looking at Manchester City. Fixtures are incredible. If you had the money to maybe go to Ederson to be completely nailed on, I would look at that, but I wouldn't be looking at any of their outfield defenders. Too much rotation, too much worry about them conceding the goal, and too many other options. So right now, the 3 that I would love, Jesus, Mahrez, and Kevin De Bruyne for me from Manchester City. I'm also not going to try and sit on the fence with Man United as well. So lots of questions came in about Man United. Should we now sell Fernandes? Is he no good? If we've got Pogba, should we switch to Martial? So before I say anything about what players I like and what I don't, if I was going to rank them right now, I still like Martial as maybe even the number 1 right now, just because of the teams we're going to play. They're going to try and sit back. They're going to try and defend. And we're going to have a lot of possessions. Having the likes of Fernandes and Pogba to now create those chances. It's not just one player teams have to focus on. They've got to focus on 2. If Pogba's getting marked, Fernandes is in space. If Fernandes is getting marked, Pogba's in space. They can both sit if they've got possession on kind of just outside the area, look for those passes through. And who's going to be there? It's going to be Martial and it's going to be Rashford. They're probably the 2 that are going to get most of the goals, I would say, over the next few weeks. Pogba, I think, is the worst option for me. He's actually created slightly more chances than Fernandes in less minutes since we came back from the break, but no shots in the box yet, although he's only 1 and a bit games. The other thing is he has no set pieces. Penalties are going to go to Fernandes. So for me, Pogba's the biggest differential, literally because he's the lowest owned. But I do think he's also the worst option. So if you have him, it's very sideways, I know, to go to Martial, to Rashford, or to even to Fernandes. But over the course of the next... Because the thing is with Man United players, if you buy into the fact they're now going to attack and they're now good options, they've got good fixtures for the rest of the season. The hardest fixture is Leicester on the last day of the season. So we've kind of got a good few games between now and then to actually get points from these players. So if you think you're going to keep those players for that long, then maybe doing a sideways move this early on isn't that bad. I don't think Pogba's just not going to return ever again. He could return in the next game against Brighton. We just don't know. But I do think he is the worst option. That's all I'll say about him. I think Martial could be the best option now, but I don't want to suddenly knee-jerk and say that Fernandes is not good at all, because he's still got penalties, he's got all set pieces pretty much, and he does have the likes of Maguire to aim at. So goals are going to come from him still. He's going to get assists from open play too. He does get a few shots in the box as well. So for me, I've got Martial and Fernandes. I'm really happy about that. Rashford's a good option. Got 2 assists in the last game, and he did get into some good goal scoring opportunities, just didn't take his chances. Maybe a little bit of rustiness there. So I do think he's a good option. But as I said previously, the one reason why he's not above Martial for me, and it was the same last week, is Martial is cheaper. He's more likely to be kind of in front of goal. Rashford as well, but I just think Martial as the striker is more likely to be in front of goal and poach those goals like he did against Sheffield United. And he gets the extra point for a goal, extra point for a clean sheet. So if you've kind of got Fernandes and you're looking to add another one, Martial is my preference. But if Rashford's easier to fit in, not a problem at all. But Pogba, not for me. And I actually think triple Man United attack could be good value. Rashford, Martial and Fernandes as well as a 3. If you wanted to go for a defender, look, people have said to me, you can sell a dream. I can sell the dream. Fernandes corner, Fernandes free kick, Maguire header. That is the dream. But I think if I was actually kind of sensible hat on having to pick again, I might go for Wan-Bissaka. Still potential for attack and returns, albeit assists rather than goals probably, but also slightly better for bonus points. So if we only score 1 or 2 goals in a match, but we keep a clean sheet, Wan-Bissaka is probably going to be higher on the list than Maguire for bonus. Usually. There could be games when Maguire does better, but Wan-Bissaka with his tackling tends to be higher up the baseline bonus. So when there's no attack and returns involved, Wan-Bissaka is usually high. So he's probably the one I'd go for. But Man United looking really good. Really quickly, just go through some differentials. So I tend to look at this stage of the season at top 10k ownership rather than overall ownership. And obviously for me, ranked at like 240k, it doesn't really matter too much about top 10k. But I think that gives you a better picture of what active managers are doing. Because because obviously people ranked in the millions or whatever who have overall ownership of players, they're not really playing anyway. At least a lot of them, not everyone. So Pulisic looks really good. 2 goals in the opening 2 game weeks now. Got the start against Man City. I think he'll start going forward. Chelsea got to keep that top 4 spot. Could even get higher than top 4 potentially. And I think Pulisic is one of their best wingers. So he has to keep starting for me. 0.5% owned in the top 10k. Looking at other Chelsea players, Alonso started the last 5 games, albeit some people think Azpilicueta is a better option. Probably wouldn't strongly argue with that because he is more likely to start. But Alonso 0.98% has started the last 5 matches. And Nketiah, 4.4 million at Arsenal. Potentially the number 1 striker now at Arsenal in terms of position. Aubameyang's obviously the most nailed, but he plays out on the wing. Nketiah is only owned by 1.37%. Worth noting that these ownerships are obviously before Game Week 32. They will go up as people bring them in. Ali, 1.85%. I think Spurs fixtures are good, albeit we didn't see a huge amount from him in the last game. So can he improve in the next one? That's something to consider. The Man City boys, this is why I'm looking at them. 7.98% for Mahrez, 4.67 for Sterling, 2.01 for Jesus. From Game Week 33, I want another one. Like, if the minutes get managed, so be it. Their upside is so huge. I need to take that punt. And I'm looking at Mahrez or Jesus to do it, I think. And then other ones, I've got Martial, still only 13.5% owned. That will go up. That will at least double, probably even triple this week. But he's still probably going to be less than 50% owned, I would say, as people kind of hang on to Fernandes and the likes of that. And Pogba, if you do want to go for the big differential, even though I think he is the worst option, he's 2.35%. So there is a lot of differentials. There's a lot of options in the Manchester region, Man United or Man City. So yeah, take your pick from the ones I've talked about. So Liverpool have won the league. Congratulations to them. Let's be honest, it was an absolutely incredible title win. They did it in a canter. It's been won for absolute months. And they were just ridiculous this year. So the problem is now people are looking at maybe getting rid of them because they have won the title. They don't have anything to play for in terms of cups. They're not in the FA Cup. They're not in the Champions League. The Premier League is officially won now. So the only thing they have really are records to play for. Maybe the points total record, I don't know, number of goals scored, golden boot, maybe golden glove as well for Alisson. So there's those things to play for. And I think Klopp is a little bit of a romantic when it comes to football as well. So we might see him. I don't think he's going to suddenly start changing the full 11, but he is going to give players a chance to get some more minutes now the league's wrapped up. Minamino, Lallana, we saw Neco Williams come on for Trent Alexander-Arnold. My current thinking with Liverpool, I think people are thinking about this a little bit more because it is Man City. So the thinking is, if they are going to start to rotate, maybe now is a good time to get rid of them before the Man City game. So I'm ahead of the pack, which is absolutely fair enough. My problem is, after Man City, they have 3 really good fixtures, starting off with Aston Villa at home. At home, that is a game you kind of want to captain a Liverpool player for. My other worry is, well, not worry, but my other thinking is, what they might do is, rather than just completely change the first 11 all the time, is that the minutes might start to get managed more. So that we saw Crystal Palace, they absolutely dominated them. Crystal Palace did not have a single touch in the box, which is absolutely ridiculous. That's how good Liverpool were. And obviously they had the game wrapped up from like 60 minutes, like even before, to be fair. But by 60 minutes, they had the game wrapped up. And I think Trent came off for like 60 or 65 minutes and Neco Williams came on. So straight away, if you're a Trent owner, that's great. Your clean sheet is banked. He's already got an attack and return. And he's rested for the next game. So I think we might see a bit more of that. I do expect some rotation. Like we might just see Lallana come in for one of the midfielders. We might see Minamino come in for whoever it is in that front 3. But I'm not suddenly expecting Firmino, Salah and Mane to start missing games, especially with golden boots to win. And they've got nothing else to play for. You can't tell me they've had a 3-month break. They've played 2 games, they've got the league, and now they're going to have another however long break it is till the next season. It's just not going to happen. Will the minutes get managed so much where they're not options? Potentially. But for me, they are so good, and I only own 2, Salah and Trent. I'd rather keep them and see what happens than try and get ahead of the pack. Now, that's not necessarily always a good thing in FPL. Obviously, if you can get ahead of the pack and get in the next differential, the next really good option before everyone else, that's even better. But for me, that Aston Villa game has such huge upside for Liverpool. If they do all start, then great. Now, in a normal season, I would say it's the first home game after winning the title. And so they're going to want to do it for the fans. And they will want to do it for the fans still, but they're obviously not on the ground. So that does come into kind of contention as well for Liverpool. So for me, I'm not getting rid. I mean, that Man City game could be massively open. I'm probably not going to captain Salah. Maybe I should be. What better way than to win the league and then also get one over again on Man City and just show you who the boss is for the league. So for me, I will not be getting rid of Liverpool players. If I had 3, maybe I'll consider it a bit more, but I probably would just hold on for now. Unless there's a player you absolutely think you must own right now, I think it's worth waiting a couple of weeks. In the back of my mind, I know there's not too many game weeks left to make big changes to try and get up the ranks. But yeah, right now I'm probably going to keep holding my Liverpool players, I think. So I was also asked about who the in-form teams are and what rotation might look like. And to be honest, it's still difficult to tell because we've only had 2 game weeks back. Some teams have played 3 times, some teams have only played twice. So there's not a huge amount of data to go on. So I think teams that have done well since the start, Wolves, I think Spurs have done okay if you bear in mind the first match was Man United. Man United themselves look good. Liverpool, a bit rusty against Everton, but when they played with their kind of first 11 against Crystal Palace, they were just so good. So if that continues, they're going to look great. Man City have started really well as well. Even Brighton have too. And Chelsea. Getting that win over Man City is going to be a huge confidence booster for them. So I think lots of teams have started well. There's obviously going to be some rotation with the FA Cup. My main thinking is when you've got teams like Man United and Spurs, potentially even Arsenal, look, top 4 is mathematically still on. At least for the likes of Man United and Wolves. So they can still get it. You've also got to consider the fact that if Man City get banned from the Champions League, which we're not going to find out until sometime in July, if Man City get banned from that, then 5th place also gets a Champions League spot, and that is much more attainable for the likes of Man United, even Sheffield United, Spurs, and maybe even Arsenal as well. So I'm expecting kind of consistent 11s from the likes of Man United and Spurs in particular. You might see Moura and Bergwijn get rotated a bit, but I think Ali in that number 10 spot, Son and Kane up front, they're going to keep starting. I think that front 5 for Man United could keep starting as well, so the likes of Martial, Rashford, Pogba, Fernandes, maybe even Greenwood on the right as well. We're going to see that a lot, and I think their kind of minutes will get managed more in the FA Cup games. Obviously, it's difficult to tell because we're going to have to make our decisions before those FA Cup games, but it's important for teams like Arsenal and Man United to get that trophy this season, but top 4 or maybe even top 5 and getting Champions League is even more important again. So I'm not hugely worried about rotation, and I think the teams I mentioned have been informed, and that's kind of where I'll be looking at probably bringing my players in. And then lastly, people getting a bit worried with their strikers, Calvert-Lewin, Ings and Jota. I think Jota is always going to have his minutes managed. He usually does anyway. I still think he's going to start most games. And Aston Villa up next. We're going to get team news and press conferences from Nuno for Wolves. So I'd be pretty tempted, unless he's not injured, maybe to keep him for this game. I've seen some people have got money to do Jota straight up to Rashford. That's probably a good idea as well. But I think Jota against Aston Villa could be a keep. And maybe you look at moving him on next week. I've got Calvert-Lewin and Ings. And I'm tempted to move on Ings for Nketiah just to get some money in to fund other moves. Nothing wrong with Ings, to be fair. He's taken quite a few shots and created quite a few chances in the opening 2 game weeks. So he's been pretty good, to be honest. But the fixtures are difficult coming up. And that's the only thing that really worries me. I know he's done well before. But if I'm going to take a punt on not owning him, it's going to be when he's got really tough fixtures like Everton, Man City and teams like that. Not to say he can't score, but if I'm going to take a chance on it, that's when I would do it. And Calvert-Lewin, a bit similar. His fixtures at the end of the season are really good. A lot of hope resting on that Norwich game, which just didn't come through, unfortunately. But Leicester at home up next again. He's taken quite a few shots. I think he's on 6 shots in the box in the first 2 games. So it's not too bad. I think goals will come for him. So I don't think any of those 3 are must-sells, but they're not really doing the business either so far. I mean, Ings, to be fair, did have an 11-pointer the opening day, and there's only blanked once against Arsenal. But the fixtures coming up are tough, so he worries me a little bit. But I think if you've got these 3, there's perfectly good cases to keep them. But at the same time, I don't think they're necessarily essential that you have to hold on to them, and you can't get rid of them if you don't want to. And lastly, we're going to talk about captaincy as well. And I think it's very similar to Gameweek 31. And there's lots of captain options and not really a massive standout one. The only difference is last week it's because there were so many good options. This week, there's not really the case of that. I think there's a couple of okay options and a couple of options where you just think they could do well, they might not do. You wouldn't be surprised if they got a haul. You wouldn't be surprised if they blanked either. And that's what's making it trickier, I think, this week. So I'm going to do what I did last week and just talk about it generally. I'm not going to delve massively into the stats, just give you my thoughts, my opinion. You're, of course, welcome to disagree, as with all my videos. So I think the thing I like about Wolves versus Aston Villa, and let's be honest, we're really considering Jimenez here, maybe Doherty, but pretty much just Jimenez. A couple of things I like about this. It's probably the safest in terms of the fact we're going to get a press conference from Nuno. There's no FA Cup games before it. And anything we do here, it's very unlikely that anything will happen in the meantime because the game is on Saturday. So he's probably the safest from that point of view. He's also very good at returning points, albeit not massively explosive, but in terms of steady returns of points, Jimenez looks good. So I think he's one of the top captains this week. Aston Villa, though, have kind of changed the defensive lineup since they've come back. Some of it is due to injuries, and they've obviously kept that because they've been doing really well. So they have defended quite well so far. They did concede 2 against Chelsea, but Chelsea are a good team. And also they've had some pretty good other results as well. So I don't think Aston Villa are necessarily as much whipping boys as they were before, but it's still a good fixture. So Jimenez is decent. I think Man United versus Brighton. This is going to be a tougher game than Sheffield United. Let's not beat around the bush. Sheffield United, everything fell into place. Egan was suspended. O'Connell was injured. Dean Henderson was out as well, or couldn't play because obviously he was loaned from Man United. So this is going to be a tougher game. Also, Brighton drew against Leicester, beat Arsenal, so they're in good form too. They don't really get battered that much. But again, I do think, a bit like Sheffield United, this is going to be the game where someone like Martial or Rashford even could shine. I wouldn't be put off captaining Fernandes. We get a penalty, he gets an assist from a corner or something like that. He will get bonus points when he gets attack and return. Simple as that. He just does too well in the bonus point system for that not to happen. So I do think they're good captain options this week, that Man United game. It is probably going to be trickier than Sheffield United, but we're probably going to get a lot of possession in that game. And right now, if I wasn't going to captain Jimenez, I'd probably put it on Martial. I know there's gambler's fallacy, which I have as well, that he's just got a hat-trick. There's no way he can do that again. And obviously, it'd be nice to captain a hat-trick. But if he gets 1 or 2 returns, he could be a really good option as well for captaincy again. So Martial and Fernandes, I think, are good options. Even Rashford, if you want a bit of a differential there in that game. Arsenal versus Norwich. Look, Aubameyang, how has he not scored since the restart? Should have got points against Southampton. Should have got points against Brighton. He is due a goal. If anyone is due a goal, it's Aubameyang. Only slight worry. FA Cup game is going to come before. Will Arteta think, well, the league is done. I'm not going to get top 4. Let's go for a trophy and play him again? The good thing about him is, obviously, he's very nailed. He's going to play pretty much every single game. But if he just played FA Cup and he's played 3 games already, it's going to be 5th game then in pretty quick succession. Will he be tired? I don't know. But Norwich have conceded a lot of shots in the box since we restarted. So I still think Aubameyang's probably, on paper, the standout. And surely a goal is going to come in at some point. So I don't own him, but if I had him, I'd be pretty happy at captaining this week, I think. Unless you're massively worried about fatigue and maybe rotation after the FA Cup. Man City versus Liverpool, I think this one just depends on how you think this game is going to go. Is Pep going to want to kind of say, look, yes, you've won the league, but we are still the better team? Is Klopp going to do the opposite? We've won the league, we're going to get one more over on you. It could be a really open game. We've seen that before between these two clubs. And if it is, Salah and Mane, great captain options. De Bruyne just keeps on doing it, great captain option. Jesus, if he plays, maybe even a massive differential captain. It's just tricky to call which player will go off in this one and how open will it be. Or will it be cagey? Will Liverpool have a Champions kind of hangover? Will Man City even care after the FA Cup game and the fact they can't win the league anymore? That's a hard one to tell, and I will probably avoid it for that reason. But given how good Salah looked against Crystal Palace and how good he's been all season chasing golden boots, same with Mane, they're probably just good captain options every single week, especially even when they play kind of Man City. Just to really talk quickly about 2 other teams. So Spurs versus Sheffield United. I still think it's a good time to play Sheffield United because even with Dean Henderson and Egan, they've not been good this season. So if you really want a massive differential punt, then Son and Kane. And then Chelsea, I think Pulisic looked good. So he could be a captain option against West Ham again if you really wanted a big differential punt. But for me, I'm probably going to lean towards Jimenez, Martial and Fernandes. But I do think there's absolutely, if you've got Aubameyang, he's got to be near the top of your list. And Man City, Liverpool, if you think that's going to be an open game, then there's going to be plenty of goals for the usual suspects. So that's it for this one. Thanks very much for watching as always. If you found it useful, make sure to give it a like. Subscribe if you're new around here. We're getting very close to 60,000 subscribers, which is absolutely insane. And like I said at the start of the video, if you do want to support the channel a bit further, YouTube membership or Patreon, both links are in the description below. I will be back at some point next week for even more videos going into Game Week 33. I hope it's green arrows all round. Like I said, give the video a like if you've enjoyed it, and I'll catch you again soon. Cheers all.